Welcome back, everybody, to Spin Rack. Whoa! I'm here with my boy, Peter, Petey, Prime Minister. So today
I'm here with Mars Blackman.
Mars Blackman? Who's that?
You know, from She's Gotta Have It.
Oh. Okay, so, gentlemen, ladies, we're watching Watchmen. We're episode... What episode?
Well, we gotta go through, because the other ones are kind of wacky that we did. We gotta go through the whole thing. Sorry. One more time. We gotta get it in 10 minutes. 10 minutes time, going through all Watchmen.
I'll let you do the honors on this one then.
Basically, at Comic-Con, they released the first episode of Watchmen. And the first episode of Watchmen, they have a historical event that happens in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right?
Yes, the massacre.
And can you explain that?
It was a massacre when there was race riots, when whites came and destroyed the town of Tulsa, Oklahoma, or parts of it, where they...
The Black Wall Street.
The Black Wall Street, that was the name of it, because it was a very successful part of Tulsa, and, you know, lynched many people. It was horrible. You know, it's an event that's been swept under the rug. Many people just don't know about it, and it's a shame. And so what happens is the impact of this reverberates through the story. Yes, because when Redford becomes president, he gives reparations.
This is the framework to giving you an origin of one of the characters. Working the same way the Watchmen TV show. The TV show is 30 years later, and this is giving you the origin of either a character that's connected to Hooded Justice or is Hooded Justice, but we don't know. But we've seen Hooded Justice, and we know Hooded Justice is a white man. So we're saying, well, I know that is, but there's this, they're showing the movie by Oscar Micheaux, which has this black marshal, which is Reeves.
Bass Reeves. Very famous.
Reeves, and that's basically going to lead to something later. So a lot of stuff is happening, and from that point, we have something that's not even directly connected to where we see the police, where the police is checking someone, and they can't even use their guns. So it's not a direct relation, because you have a race riot where black people are killed, and then we have something that's connected to our present day, but they can't use the guns. The guns are kind of...
they're locked until they're
locked, and they need approval to use it. Yeah. So at the same time, watching this is giving us two things that don't directly connect. And it's like, you're going to have to let this sort of, the tea boil in this thing. So, and then we get to see that the Rorschach is now a part of a new collective, which is called
the 7th
Cavalry. So now all the police, we get to meet Sister Knight, and we get to see all the police. They all have masks. A lot of them get some branding. We have the yellow mask, but then we have the detectives like Sister Knight, and we also have Looking Glass who are there. And they definitely have this long struggle with the 7th Cavalry. There's this big fight that's going on. But at the same time, we see Don Johnson, who's the leader, the chief of police, and he's using Dr. Owl's, he's using his ship, the Owl ship, and that shows up in the first episode. We're like, wow. So when we get to see these little bits, and there's this movie that's going on in the backdrop that's almost similar to like the comic book that was in there. That's a thread throughout there. We're seeing this history of the Watchmen through this TV show, but it's only hinted, and we only get to see a little bits of it that's going on. And we see Don Johnson. He's a great guy. He's positive. He does a little, he has little recreational drugs while he's with the family, but then he's taken out at the end, and Sister Knight has to see it. This is the closest person to her, and we see.
Why is she the closest person to her?
Because we see that in a later episode. But as the same things, this is peeling very slowly. So that's the first episode, right? And the person who's in a wheelchair that talked to Sister Knight is there. And he's standing under a hung Don Johnson, who was the chief of police. And we don't know why this has all happened. Let's get into the second episode. What's in the second episode?
In the second episode, the man reveals that, hey, he was the one who killed Don Johnson.
Yes.
And he said, he killed him because
he has this past.
He has a past. He has a dark past that people don't know about.
I think he was saying he was connected to the cavalry.
Exactly.
Even though they were fighting against them.
Right. So that doesn't make sense. And the whole reason we find out is because the cavalry actually years before, and one of the reasons why the cops now wear masks, came out, they found out the identity of all the cops and detectives and killed almost all of them. except for Sister Knight, who was able to fight back, and Don Johnson.
Yes.
So those were the only two survivors of that whole massacre. So the only way to build up the force again was to institute a situation where the police would be able to cover their face and people wouldn't know who they are. And the detectives basically were able to become characters, almost characters like a superhero character. They became like a vigilante group or like the Justice League, but without the powers and stuff like that.
Well, not all of them. Some of them have wacky. There's like a koala bear guy, but there's some wacky ones. But there's a couple of them that have really close to superhero. But then there's also another riot that goes on. We get a lot of stuff that really connects to what's going on here today. But there's also Ozymandias. He's been doing the most wackiest stuff ever. He's almost recreating some scenes from the comic book, and it's like a cynical approach to how Dr. Manhattan was created. It's saying, "Oh, I left my watch in the thing," and he's like, "Oh no, you're trapped." So it's like playing to the comic bookness of the sort of the, I guess, the more how something would happen in a comic book, how people would think it would happen. But that's actually how it did happen in a comic book, that he got trapped in there. There was no fail safes to get him out. So. Yeah.
So he's in prison. He's basically imprisoned, it looks like.
Yes.
And he can't, wherever he's at, he can't get out. He's a much older version of it. It's been, 30 years?
30 years. He has a lot of clones. He's been killing and torturing these clones.
Yeah.
And they perform various crazy tasks for him and whatnot. So, but the onion's getting peeled slowly. But at the end of episode 2, we find out that Don Johnson character has a past, and we don't know what his connection to the Ku Klux Klan is.
Right.
But we get to see that. Then episode 3, we see the second Silk Spectre. She's in there 30 years later. She's a government official. She's taking out superheroes. Superheroes are totally outlawed, and she's taking them out. But when we last saw her, she was going off in the pasture with Night Owl, and she's gone, but now she just has an owl in her room. We don't know what happened to the second Night Owl.
He's in jail.
He's in jail, thank you.
He's in jail.
We don't know why he's in jail.
No, we don't know. So what's going on here is that, she's been tasked by the senator, the son of the previous senator, in the book, whereby he got the law to let the cops put the mask on, and so what basically now, after the death of Don Johnson, he's asking her to come back and take over the police force.
She'll take over the police force.
So that's, and she comes back. She doesn't want to do it, but he basically strong arms her by saying, I can help you out. Yeah. Most likely it's with helping out with whoever she has in prison right now. Currently. The actress is great. I think she does a great job. I think several of the actors do a great job. Sister Knight does a great job. We have Don Johnson does a great job. So it's pretty interesting coming through. The acting, we don't have any complaints really about the acting.
We don't have any complaints.
The peeling of the onion is damn slow, bro.
That's the thing that everyone, that is a legitimate gripe that people can have, that there's a lot of storylines going on here, and it can be confusing. It also be confusing because you want to know what is going on here. You want the cool stuff they want to know, and that they're not ready to reveal yet. And that's most of the questions that I've gotten about what are the squids. Like,
right, but the pacing, the pacing.
What about the pacing?
I just find the pacing a lot slower than I would prefer. We watched The Mandalorian, and every episode they give you a reveal.
There's a bunch of reveals in this one. It's just not the reveals you want.
You're right. There's a lot of reveals, but the reveals that we get from here, it's that they give you more questions.
It's fair to say, I want to understand what the squids are. I want to know what's going on with Don. I want this reveal, but they're not going to reveal, like, the thing is, you can say what they're revealing about Don Johnson might be bigger when you get to the end. And in the comic book, the stuff they were revealing about the comedian was, every issue they revealed something about it was more interesting than the last one. You can say that's more, but they have been revealing stuff. But the thing is, you want to know, well, just clear up this thing. But they're not. This is going to go the full season.
And I don't have a problem. You're right. You're 100% right. I don't have a problem with them.
But you can have a problem with it saying, I'm interested, I'm not interested in this other stuff, and you can leave the show. That can happen to any viewer. No, sorry, you go. I was just saying.
No, I'm just saying that's true. But I'm saying that the possibility here is that I think that the show is a good production. I think there's a lot of very interesting story that's in there for us to watch. But I think that you frustrate the audience sometimes with the pace of how you're revealing. It doesn't have to be the revelation of one specific thing, but I think that if you're going to be a successful show, you need to be able to gather the audience in and say, hey, we're explaining what's going on. There's a good pacing, and they put a lot of money in interaction. And I'm afraid that this is not going to be the hit that they're hoping for, like on the level of.
What are you going to keep saying? The Mandalorian again?
I was going to say Game of Thrones. I'm just saying, if it was me, I think like Amazon has done a great job of where they've started turning around.
All right, now we're comparing and contrasting.
We're disagreeing with that. So
I would say,
let's go back to the story.
You can say, well, they did this. You can say there's one central character in The Mandalorian, and we're following him. So this is multiple characters. As they went along in the comic, they were introducing many characters. I'm okay with, because that's the thing. I've been talking with people. Some people want to know what's going on with the squids. Let's get the reveal of that happen. Let's get the reveal of Don Johnson happening. This is TV. It wasn't these the Leftovers guys and the Lost guys. They don't reveal stuff that quickly, and they've been allowed to do stuff.
And they can.
And you can run off. You can run off quick earlier than that. I'm fine. I understand. I'm not saying I'm fine. I'm saying I understand it. That's a valid argument. But at the same time, as we introduced the new characters, we found out more about the man in the wheelchair. We found out more about him, his history, that he was actually the character. Well, he took on the name of that Marshall Reed.
Bass Reed.
He took on that name as his name, but it's actually more connected to this family that we're introduced in. He's the little boy that was in Tulsa during the riot, or during the massacre, rather.
And we find out that he's related to Sister Night.
But Sister Night is not with it. But at the same time, the old man is taken away, and we find out he's taken away by Sister True. It was Sister True, and Sister True has everything that sort of where Ozymandias was. She's at now, and she is the technologically most advanced person here. She can buy and sell. She can buy and sell the town. Does whatever she wants, and everything's happening in Tulsa right now. Right. So we also at this point when. The second Silver Spectre, she's constantly on the phone with what we think is Dr. Manhattan, and he's not answering. But we think we got the answer, but actually it was not him. Basically, it was his Sister True, and that's why there's a point where you give you one thing when you think you're getting Dr. Manhattan, and it actually leads you to the next thing. And she's from Vietnam. But then Dr. Manhattan and the comedian both had, spent time handling things for the U.S. in Vietnam, so there could be a connection.
Sister Night. Sister Night was an orphan in Vietnam, so that brings another connection. Like, what the hell was going on there in Vietnam?
So there's whatever was going on with them. We're gonna find out later. But when we get to this next one, the reveal of Looking Glass was the most recent episode, and we find out why he's taken on this mask. And he also, feels that this is also protecting him. This is what saved him when the actual space alien came to Earth and destroyed so many people's minds at once. That's why he's decided to take on the Silver. So he's almost the new Rorschach. He's he's very much a conspiracy theorist. He's got the support group, and he meets someone at the support group, and he's kind of pulled towards her, but he gets his red hair, and he finds this thing of lettuce, and he goes to follow it, and he goes to follow her. He calls in for backup, and ultimately they're trying to tell him the truth that we know, any one of the comic book readers, the truth of what happened with this space alien.
Oh yeah.
And we actually get a video that was sent to the government, to specifically that he Adrian Veidt, he actually predicts that Robert Redford is going to become president. That's why I don't get into the Redfordations and Robert Redford. The idea that Richard Nixon is president in the comic book goes to them doing, it's just a bit. So I don't think there's a big deal of saying this is an alternate reality where reparations were given because it's obviously Robert Redford. So I think it's just a bit.
I don't think it's a big deal at all. The point I was just trying to say with that is that reparations are giving, and then there's people who are fighting against it and people who are trying to get it. And the only way you go through is a connection through that Tulsa. That's what brings that whole Tulsa divide in. That's what brings in theoretically the 7th Cavalry. This is what connects Sister Knights to the guy. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, okay.
And
So
as opposed to whether I thought it was just clickbait because it's HBO home box office.
Well, I don't even know what that relates to anything.
HBO it loves doing that clickbait where before in shows they go butt naked women all over the place. This is just another version of it too.
What is that?
But can I finish what I'm saying? Can I finish my thought? But they show the connection. This one actually has a reason why they did the whole Tulsa and bring it forward, and the connections make perfect sense. So it's not bad. I just thought it was just they were trying to do that before.
You're saying the refundations, well, which is
no, the showing of the whole Tulsa massacre and how that was going about was of course I thought was more clickbait just to get people in. Oh my gosh, what's going on? But there's actually a reason for it, and there's a story behind it and why people are and what's happening.
Which is also like slavery too, right? So it's not just that massacre. You think the refundation is just for
Tulsa?
I think
it's Tulsa.
That's only them?
I think it's just in the Tulsa.
Wow, okay. Thank you. I didn't know that.
I thought
it was as in
because they said that she was Sister Knight was now eligible because she has a has a relative.
Thank you. I did not know that, as they say in Johnny Carson. Thank you. I think it was just reparation for everyone. We then find that the 7th Cavalry have connected with even bigger person that Looking Glass figures out it almost instantaneously, and finds out this whole
trap.
They find
out honey trap.
Yeah, and so the next thing you know, Looking Glass has to find out that this isn't real, and he's kind of torn, and they're just saying, take out Sister Knight. Right. Don't let her get whatever.
But what they're saying is real is that he had developed. Their whole thought was that he had to wear this particular type of metal or something to block out the waves.
But also protect him from whatever.
But he realized he doesn't need that.
Anyway.
That
he doesn't need it. But Vite is out there. That's why he kind of gave up the skepticism at the end. But if Vite is out there and that's what he did, he could do it. He's not going to necessarily give up everything.
But because
he lose a cool character.
He's been doing it for so long where he goes into and one of the things is everybody dies, but when he's in a hall of mirrors, he survives, though he's been tricked to take off all his clothes and he's butt naked. Some chick out in a thing, he's some Southern boy comes north, and come on, how many times do we hear this story? Southern boy comes north and he gets taken. This guy got taken.
So wait a second. I mean, if something that happens to people you can't do. But you're saying that how many times?
It's so cliche, bro.
You mean cliche is something I don't like.
Cliche in that why don't we do something?
Cliche meaning that's the hardest time. There's things of saying cliche, saying how many stories are you gonna say this happened in? Yeah,
like the country yokel comes up north and then he gets.
Tell me a story you've seen it in.
What? Everybody knows. Come on, I don't have to tell you anything.
Saying someone doing a cliche is saying the stuff I don't like. Where we see 3 million revenge stories. We see 3 million of the same story, and we don't say that.
Are you talking about The Mandalorian by talking through your mouth and talking about The Mandalorian?
I'm saying revenge stories are revenge story.
Because right now, me and you will be going for it right now. I'll be pulling off my shirt, taking off the... Don't.
I'm saying it's cliches is at times something that we don't like.
All right, we're
saying that I don't want to see this in this story when it's just a basic thing of.
It's fine. We could call this fine. All I'm just saying is that
unless you just wanted him to get some in this story and saying that's wrong for that chick.
I just felt that. I saw exactly what she was going to do, and I'm like, this guy didn't get that. I mean, how much of a?
Because he's a goober.
What do you think about this overall setup in the season going on? So what's your take so far of the overall season?
So the season's been working for me.
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, since there was a movie that followed the comic book closely and basically changed the space alien, I really wasn't looking for more of the same. Or the same, like we also had like Doomsday Clock, which is almost like, this is not, the writing itself is like the dialogue itself is solid, but it's almost like a Ghostbusters 2 where you have Ghostbusters, but then when you go to the second one, it kind of restarts it. Everything restarts now because Agent Vitus has been found out, that sort of thing. So it's ultimately I wanted a little more of the new, and we're introduced to new characters that have different backgrounds. We have the framework, they're trying to follow the framework of Watchmen, and I'm giving them some rope, you know, a lot of rope to see where this goes. And, you know, them really going for it, doing the space alien, which wasn't my cup of tea when I read the comic book.
Yeah, wasn't mine either.
It was very much, because Watchmen kind of switch from being a, you know, detective story to then it goes to a superhero story, and it keeps switching. And it's basically, the best part of it is that it's taking a character and a comedian and saying this is most well-rounded character in comic books, so getting every side of his personality. And then we say, you know what we should do? We need a climax. So we're going to have this comic book climax because I'm taking apart the comic book characters at the same time. And it's just like, at that point it didn't work, but then it's like, all right, I need to see something different. And that's what's really been cool to see them do some different things in here and try some things and take some chances. Whereas the movie, I think the movie did come up with a climax that worked within the framework of having Dr. Manhattan, and he becomes the thing. But I think a friend of mine was saying it's not Lovecraftian and that sort of thing, which would be more Adrian Veidt thing. But you know, so it's been interesting to me, and I've been critical of Alan Moore's work in the past, but at the same time, now I just want to see where they're going to go. The thing is, these things can always go south, so we don't know where it's going to go yet. So we'll see how they end. If they end strong, you know, we'll see where it goes. If that thing, we at the same time in these sort of stories, which is episodic stories, we then go back the same with Lost and say, well, how did this work with that? Did they drop some pieces? Did they change some pieces? That's where I'm at right now.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm feeling this is like a Westworld. We're going down this whole thing. HBO's dumped a lot of money into this sucker, okay? And they're hoping that the thing will work right. Right now, we're at the precipice. How far are they going to go? They're going to go up, or they're just going to go down. You know, I think no matter what, HBO is going to double down and probably order another second season. But I think they got to give us a little bit more. And if this is the same thing, I don't think the audience is going to go out for it. That's my personal take on it. All right, spin rack.
Out.